Well, I think it's very important, first of all, as a millennial, to reach out to millennials. I think that it's very important to engage black voters early. And I think there's an opportunity to reach out to a lot of voters of faith and remind them that faith, Christian or otherwise, does not have to send you into the arms of the right wing, especially at a time like this. You know, a lot of the most powerful voices of what you might describe as a religious left have been rooted in the black church. And I'm looking forward to the chance to engage on that.
Young people are going to be very important to the 2020 election, and especially in the Democratic primary right now, the road to the Democratic nomination goes through the black community. We've seen that time and again, and so all of us need to have a vision that is inclusive and that particularly addresses the needs of the African American community and, of course, the young people within that community, that we want to be able to get a good education, have the opportunity to fulfill their dreams, get a good job, buy a home, all of those things that have been a marker of the American dream. And too often times, that has not been available to young African Americans in our country. So, for me, I'm proud that we've put out housing policy, education policy, economic policy that will benefit young African Americans, and I look forward to talking about that today.
Shaq Brewster joins me live now from Atlanta. Great to see you, Shaq. We know the candidates have been fighting for the black vote, but how are they going to cater that pitch specifically to black millennials?
Well, they're insisting they're not tailoring their message any different, that these messages that target and them explaining their policies that affect African Americans, that's something that's fundamental to their campaigns. But if you look at all the candidates that we heard from today, Senator Booker, Senator Buttigieg, or Mayor Buttigieg, and Secretary Castro, they all have policies specifically geared towards African Americans. So you heard Senator Booker talk about his white supremacist plan, his plan to combat white supremacy and white supremacist violence, and tying that to his gun violence prevention plan. You heard Mayor Buttigieg talk about his Douglas agenda for black America, talking about how the issue of racism is systemic, and that there needs to be systemic issues to combat that kind of and those kind of problems. And then you also heard from Secretary Castro, who talked about his plan to reform policing in this country. So they all use this time, this opportunity to speak to about 5,000 community leaders, young leaders that are involved in the church and involved in their communities from all across the country. They use this time to talk to them, to introduce themselves to these voters, and hope that their messages will mobilize them when they go back home.
Shaq, we know that Joe Biden's been leading with black voters, but he's not there today. Have you spoken to people there who say they are going with Biden, and maybe why?
Yeah, exactly. Vice President Biden is not here today, and Vice President Biden is not going to show up, but you also have Senator Warren and Senator Sanders who will be here tomorrow. I'll tell you, the one theme that I heard talking to a lot of people here is that it is so early. People are feeling around, they're listening to these candidates. Some of them are being introduced to the candidates for the very first time, but while they may have a favorite right now, they're still open to hearing from many of the other candidates. Now, with that said, there's also the sense that many people are happy with what they saw under the Obama administration. They said there's real pain, especially in the African American community, with what's going on under President Trump, and they want to use that energy to motivate them in this election, and hope that drives them to whoever becomes the nominee to go and support them through their communities.
All right, Shaq Brewster in Atlanta at the Young Leaders Conference. Thanks so much.
You got it.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.